Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April 15th, 2026 Mercer Island Arts Council regular hybrid meeting. The time is now 5:31 p.m. I am Jonathan Harrington, Chair of the Arts Council. Tonight's Arts Council meeting is in person at the Mercer Island Community and Event Center, and we are also using Zoom conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. Public audience members may be listening to the meeting by telephone or online. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, we are excited to welcome a new Arts Council member, Smriti Agarwal. And is she here?
No, she is not, Chair.
So, yes, she was elected, and we congratulate her and look forward to seeing her. Uh, so tonight, we're also excited to welcome our new City Council liaison, Julie Xie. Julie, would you like to share a bit about yourself and what your interests are in serving as the Arts Council City Liaison?
Well, yes. Hi, thank you. I'm really excited to be the council liaison for the Arts Council. Some of you may know that I'm an artist myself. I'm also a member of MyVol. I also own an art gallery in Bellevue, and MyVol has exhibited at my art gallery, and we're planning another exhibition for next year. So I love the arts. I grew up singing, so I love music. I love the arts. I'm the chair of the Fine Arts Advisory Council, which just put on the showcase for the district. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here and support however I can.
Well, we're very excited to have you, and thank you very much for your introduction. Counselors, please ensure that your microphones are turned on for the roll call. And if participating remotely, please have your cameras turned on during the meeting. Will staff please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Agarwal, Councillor Rajagopal,
Here.
Councillor Kratzer,
Here.
Councillor Rock,
Here.
Vice Chair Scone,
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here.
Thank you, Chair.
Our first item of business is public appearances. This is the opportunity for anyone to speak to the Arts Council about any item, except items requiring a public hearing, any quasi-judicial matters, or campaign-related matters. City staff, has anyone signed up for appearances?
Yes, Chair, we have one public appearance this evening.
Individuals wishing to speak live during the appearances portion of our meeting may do so by telephone via Zoom or in person at the Mercer Island Arts Community Events Center, provided, however, they have registered the desire to speak with the city admin staff by 4 p.m. today. Our city admin staff will call on you by name or telephone number when it's your turn to speak. Please speak audibly and state your name and city of residence for the record. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Staff will provide you with a 10-minute second notice when your time is about to expire. When your time is ended, I will thank you for your comments and move on to the next speaker or item of business. City staff, please introduce the first speaker.
Thank you, Chair. Ann Heritze is making a public appearance remotely, and I'll be moving her over at this time.
Oh, shoot. Disconnect. Uh, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, and we
Okay.
we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't, oh, maybe that'll do
Oh,
it.
here you come. Here you come.
Uh, it keeps going to my phone. Disconnect, disconnect. Sorry, technical difficulties on my end. Uh,
Oh,
there. Oh, hey, there I am. Oh. Hi, everybody. Okay, I've already used up half of my 3 minutes. Hello, Arts Council and city staff who work to recognize, support, and implement arts programs to enrich the cultural and community experiences living on Mercer Island. The community is grateful, and especially my community through the Mercer Arts League, Visual Arts League, my vault. Our members have spent countless volunteers hours since 1961 to elevate the visual arts on the island and provide a place of learning, support, and a vibrant community for city residents. I'm here tonight following conversations with staff about pushing the Sculpture Park implementation forward. As you know, I've been pushing for a Sculpture Park map as a way to engage city residents and now off-island light rail visitors with our city art collection. The Greta Hackett Sculpture Park has been under discussion by the Arts Council for years, and this seems like a great time for Arts Council members to prioritize and complete this project. On a recent walkthrough, it is apparent that this collection has significantly decreased due to theft, construction of city parking, and a car crash, especially in the section between the two light rail stations, where the most people will be coming. Where did the pieces go that were part of the art for sale? Can we get them back? I'm asking the Arts Council to put out a call for local artists to display their art and for the city to assist in getting these pieces installed back for the experience. And in light of the upcoming city-sponsored Arts on the Island weekend at the end of August, I'm proposing to work together with the city and Arts Council members to create one, a printable sculpture park map, two, an update of the experience on the city website and the Story app to visit and learn more about the city arts collection. Three, signage in the park to help orient and engage visitors to the art pieces as well as the walking opportunity through the sculpture park. If there's a delay in getting permanent signage, can we at least get temporary A-boards or printed yard signs with stakes? And four, a kids' version of an art scavenger hunt incorporating the island-wide city art collection, like the summer letterboxing program where you might have a passport and win a prize for finding all the pieces. Parents love this type of summer activity. Five, maybe an art docent-led tour for the Arts on the Island weekend. This could be an element in the weekend plan, and I could connect you with an art historian who might be available for this. She's great. And then a future effort, incorporation of the sculpture park information into a citywide information kiosk at the light rail station, working with Sound Transit and perhaps in conjunction with the chamber who already has these kiosks available. Having proposed that, I encourage the Arts Council members to get involved with some of these efforts, and I am happy to team up to build up our sculpture park and make this a proud feature of our Arts on the Island weekend, as well as a permanent point of pride for Mercer Island. I was hoping to be on the agenda to ask for some ideas and action on these items, but in the meantime, I look forward to setting a time where we can meet together to work out the details. I've provided a written copy to Raven, so if you want to review my points, I would love to talk to you more about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. I appreciate it. So if there are no further appearances, we will move on to regular business. The first item on the agenda is the staff liaison report and planning schedule update. Welcome, Katie Herzog, interim recreation manager and staff liaison.
Hi there. I'm going to have Ryan drive the PowerPoint. And if my video is bad, let me know and then we can switch and Ryan can talk. But I'll turn off my video to save my Wi-Fi. All right. Thank you for joining us today. First up, save the date for the First Hill Park ribbon cutting. The city will host a ribbon cutting event on Tuesday, May 5th at 4 p.m. You can join City Council for light refreshments as we celebrate another successful playground project for the Mercer Island community. The annual board and commission recruitment is now open through May 8th. We are looking for quite a bit of positions, 3 positions on the Arts Council, 2 on the Open Space Conservancy Trust, 2 on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and 2 on the Utility Board. You can apply or tell your close friends to apply at boards and commissions on the Mercer.gov or mercerisland.gov website. And if you have any questions, please email our city clerk, Andrea Larson, her email at the bottom of the screen. All right, we are in the thick of our Earth Month events. As you can see, we've got quite a few events that have happened and are continuing to happen through the end of the month. I wanted to highlight a special activity that we've teamed up with the Friends of Luther Burbank Park for a guided birdwatching walk, which will happen on Saturday, April 25th at 9 a.m. And as you'll see on the calendar, there's a few other events happening that same day. Oh, go ahead. We have about another week of the Curating the Curators art show here at the community center. Up next, after the April 24th date, is a quilting exhibit that will come in. And MyBall is also offering a photo transfers with acrylic painting art class on Saturday, June 13th from 10 to 4 at the community center. And you can register for that through the MyBall website. Our summer camps are in full swing of taking registrations. As a reminder, we contract with a variety of organizations who offer a real wide variety of camps for us. For more information, you can visit mercerisland.gov/summer camps to see all of the offerings and hopefully get your kids in some camps.
We might have lost Katie. Ryan?
And that's why I'm here. I'll step in because this is a great one to talk about. Our Open Studio Art program, coordinated by Arts Council member Raja Gopal. And so we do have a number of dates coming forward for 2026. Those are all listed there. And even if you aren't artistic, and I hope I can make this pitch, come by and check out the program. It's one of the things I really enjoy is walking by that room and seeing all of the people in there of varying ages and demographics taking part in this program. So please come check it out. And the Arts Council planning schedule. So July 15th, we have a number of items listed there, as well as the October meeting. Some of the outcomes pending from actually this meeting, as we talk about the Clark and Groveland infrastructure plan, those outcomes will inform the additional meetings we have coming forward this year as well. So with that, I thank you and glad I could step in and get my words out a couple of times here. Oops.
Thank you very much. So the next item of regular business is to review and consider approving the minutes from the January 21st, 2026 regular meeting. Councilors may have a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so councilors, please turn on your microphones. Will the city staff please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Rock,
Approve.
Vice Chair Scone,
Approve.
Chair Harrington,
Approve.
Councillor Rajagopal,
Approve.
Councillor Kretzer.
Approve.
Thank you,
Wrong
Chair.
button. Wrong button. Sorry.
So the motion passes and the minutes are approved. So the next item of regular business tonight is the Clark and Groveland Joint Infrastructure Plan, Public Art Opportunities. And so we had created this option where we would sit on the tables with the idea that we'd have more people here. But I think since we just have the 4 now today, we'll just stay where we are. That's okay with everybody? So we welcome CIP Project Manager Sarah Bluvas.
Good evening, Arts Council. Let me get all set up here. All right, can I get a thumbs up that you can see my screen? Terrific, thank you. So for the record, I'm Sarah Bluvis, Capital Project Manager, and I'm here tonight to talk about the Clark and Groveland Beach Parks Joint Infrastructure Plan. That is a mouthful. Let's see how many times I mess it up tonight. I believe this is the first formal time we're talking with the Arts Council about this planning effort that's been underway for a few years. So tonight I'll provide a project background. I'll give a summary of community engagement that has been conducted to date, and then we'll go in and do a review of the current draft preferred plans for each park. The reason I'm really here tonight to talk with you all is to start discussing opportunities for public art integration for the preferred plan. Excuse me. So we'll close out the night tonight talking about those opportunities, and then I'll share some next steps. So our goal tonight is to seek input from the Arts Council on preferred public art integration opportunities that will be documented in the final joint infrastructure plan for both parks. That's because future capital projects, as you all know, through all of your public art planning, will likely result or will likely contribute to the 1% for Art in Public Places Fund. So this is our first opportunity to start discussing what future public art projects could actually look like. Important to note, this is a high level conversation right now because this is just, we're just at the planning level for this project. Future projects will be brought back to the Arts Council and the community as those future capital projects are developed. So there will be many opportunities to re-engage on specific projects. Tonight, we're really just looking at what are the high-level opportunities that we want to make sure are captured in the plan before it's adopted by the end of the year. So for some project context, Clark and Groveland Beach Parks are two of three public waterfront parks here on Mercer Island. Clark is on the east side, Groveland's on the west side. The parks were originally developed in the 1960s and 1970s, and both feature aging overwater structures, so thinking of docks, concrete bulkheads, and other overwater features, as well as their upland infrastructure, so like the play area at Groveland, picnic areas at both parks, that sort of thing. They're reaching the end of their life, so they need to be repaired or replaced soon. And to address these opportunities for infrastructure improvements at both parks, the City Council approved this joint planning effort back in 2022. And the goal is really to prioritize capital projects for both parks and also to navigate the very strict permitting environment for shoreline projects, which some of us on staff have a lot of experience now through the process to renovate the Luther Burbank Park waterfront, and I can stress that it is very extensive. So this planning effort will help us with a roadmap and as well as future efforts with permitting agencies down the road. So we kicked off the planning effort in 2023. And that really looked at what are the existing conditions at each park. So we did a lot of early site assessment. This included technical assessments of the in-water structures, geotechnical and critical areas review, an audit for accessibility of both restroom structures, as well as talking with the community about how they currently use the park and what their future needs are. So this slide provides just a brief summary of those background findings for the in-water structures. So at Groveland, that is the current swimming dock and the concrete bulkhead. The overall condition of the in-water structures is fair, but degradation is evident. So we'll need to address those in the future. And at Clark Beach, the structures have really reached the end of their useful life. So this includes degradation of the concrete stairs, the timber piles that hold up the two fixed piers at the site, and then the sheet pile wall that creates the enclosed swimming area. For the geotech side, no wetlands and no non-piped watercourses were observed at either site, and both parks are mapped as hazardous areas, which means that we'll have to do additional geotechnical study once we get into future design phases. Some of the primary concerns at both parks include soil sediment in the upland areas. You might see this when you're going down the steep paths at both parks and seeing cracking, for instance, in the asphalt paths, as well as beach settlement and waterfront erosion. And then for the restroom audit, both restroom facilities at the parks are functional, but they're non-compliant with several ADA guidelines. So these are things like no accessible route to each facility, no turning clearance within the water closet areas, and other features that are necessary for future improvements to bring it up to ADA. So I mentioned too that we also talked with the community in the early planning phase, just to learn more about how the community currently uses these parks and what they would like to see going forward. So we hosted a survey on Let's Talk in fall of 2024 that received 229 total responses. Community members could respond for one park or both parks, so that number represents the total number of responses. And some of the key takeaways and biggest concerns for each park are noted here on the slide. So most people access each park by car, although many are walking and biking. So that gives us a lot of insight into future access improvements for each park, as well as beach access and waterfront access really being a priority for the community at each of these parks. It ranked as the highest use for both. Primary concerns really fell into four main categories. So in terms of accessibility, we heard a lot about the trail steepness, again, access to the beach and water and wayfinding, among others. Park maintenance, we heard about degraded amenities, pet and animal droppings, a lot of goose poop at both parks, especially at Groveland, which makes it not fun sometimes to put your blanket out or your towel out to lay out on the grass. Maybe some opportunities or need for more plantings, and then other issues like litter came up. For amenities, we heard about interest in more picnic tables, barbecues, play opportunities, more opportunities for shade, and then just general amenities like trash receptacles. And then also heard about safety. And this really focused on swimming conditions and water quality, as well as, I think, user behavior at the park. So observation of poor park user behavior, as well as maybe interactions with off-leash dogs, especially at Clark. So we took all of these findings from the technical analysis, the community input. I just got a notice to reboot my computer. All the community input. We went to City Council back in March of 2025, and they approved staff's recommendation to develop a joint infrastructure plan for Clark and Groveland. And this plan will really identify improvements to implement over the next 10 to 12 years. So a shorter time horizon than maybe a park master plan. The council identified the following priorities for the plan. So number one, docks and waterfront improvements. Two, shoreline erosion control and stabilization. Three, accessibility improvements. And then four, other amenities. So things like the restrooms, parking improvements, and other opportunities as resources allow. And so I mentioned kind of the difference in a park master plan and a park infrastructure plan. And really it comes down to a few elements. First, the planning horizon is different. So with a park master plan, you're really looking long-term, 20 plus years. The Luther Burbank Park Master Plan, for instance, was adopted in 2006, and we're still implementing it now. Versus a near-term plan, which is really what an infrastructure plan is meant to be. It's really meant to focus on the next 10 to 12 years and really thinking about specific immediate improvements. What does the park need right now, as opposed to kind of that broader high-level framework that you all often see with the park master plan, where we're really asking the community, what do you want the future of this park to be? Given the conditions at each park and the opportunities for improvements, the infrastructure plan route is a better fit. So the results of this plan will really be a report that includes schematic designs for each park, as well as early cost estimates that will help us initiate the design development, which will be implemented in future capital programs. So I'm going to pause there and see if there are any questions about the initiation of this project and the early planning effort.
Kind of. Yeah, Sarah, at Groveland, those floating erosion control barrels or whatever they are, what's
The
the
wave
story?
attenuators.
Yeah, the wave attenuators. I know it's probably out of the scope of our work here. However, they're not attractive. They're probably not safe. What is the need and maybe options in the long term for those?
Yeah, so the wave attenuators work to dampen wave action along the waterfront to minimize shoreline erosion. So the wave attenuators were installed a few years ago. I think through the plan for Groveland, we will continue to evaluate when we get into the future design phase, whether the wave attenuators could be removed. You'll see when we get to the preferred plan, it does currently propose replacing the existing swim dock with a hybrid floating swim dock and fixed pier. The floating swim dock is an opportunity for providing wave attenuation. We are implementing a floating swim dock at Luther Burbank Park as part of the waterfront improvements project. So there may be future opportunity to evaluate whether or not removing the wave attenuators will work, and then replacing it with a different type of wave attenuation like a floating dock. So when you see the preferred plan, you'll see the wave attenuators kind of still in the background, but that's just to note that we're currently evaluating it, and we'll continue to evaluate whether or not they can be removed in the future design phase.
I really appreciate hearing that. And I think, we can if we could have a floating swimming dock that does, enhance the park use wise, so, and aesthetically.
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm just curious, when might potentially the first actual work be done? Like for instance, things that don't require, like for instance, the bathrooms, for instance, or some ADA improvements. I'm assuming those would be things that would start earlier, and then things like dealing with the docks and beach areas would come later because of permitting and so forth.
Yep. So the final plan will likely have a phased approach to implementing improvements. Because of the conditions at Clark Beach, we likely will start with Clark first. So right now, the city is going through the capital planning process for the 2732 capital improvement program. So we have submitted an application to start early design on Clark in the 27-28 biennium. So, based on my experience with shoreline permitting for the Luther Burbank waterfront project is the shoreline permitting takes a very long time. We are still in permitting for Luther, and we started that process in 2022. I don't think that Clark and Groveland will be as difficult because there's some different agencies involved, but there are several state and federal and local agencies that have to weigh in on permitting. So we are going to evaluate, what makes the most sense based on the conditions of the facilities currently and permitting timelines. What do we need to get done first? But I think really, again, Clark would likely be implemented first, just given the issues with all of the structures, as well as the opportunity for ADA access, which you'll see when we get to the preferred plan. But based on the experience with Luther, we're looking at probably a 5 to 10 year timeline before significant improvements are implemented.
Thank you.
And Sarah, I'm curious, just for us to better understand the scope of what was actually submitted, can you just tell us what you submitted for that next budget cycle?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it is only to cover early design. So it's likely, I think it was in the 150 to $200,000 range. So, you know, thinking about, I think design for Luther took, well, it's still underway in some ways. But we're, you know, these design processes will likely take 18 months to 2 years to really get things moving to get to permitting.
Is it okay? Is everybody okay if I speak now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I was curious. I had a couple questions. One, when you were talking about master planning and defining the vision, it makes sense to not do a deep dive on that, but I was curious if Mercer Island had a simple sentence that was a vision, like a visionary sentence, a true north for their parks or for these parks specifically, just to make sure that as we are making all of these changes and investing this time and capital, that it's in line with what that vision is.
So the primary guiding document for our park system is the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan, or the PROS Plan. We last updated our PROS Plan in 2022 and did a pretty robust community engagement process to update the plan. And this planning effort actually came out of that plan. It was one of the top priorities for future capital projects. In part because the PROS plan identified as a high priority creating more access to the water. And so as two of our public waterfront parks, they provide a good opportunity. I can definitely share out the PROS plan if you haven't seen it. I know that it includes goals for across the park system. So that also covers like recreation. There's goals for the arts as well. So that's one document. And then another is the 6-year Art and Public Places work plan, which has a lot of kind of high level goals or priorities for public art specifically.
Okay. I was curious about a simple sentence, like creating places for community connection and nature or something really simple. I didn't know, but I'll reference the document and see if there is something there that exists. Just I think having simple visionary statements are helpful when diving deep into these big projects. The other question I had, which I mean, it sounds like we're very early in a long timeline. It always comes up, a place for public art, in these park restorations. And I was curious when that comes up in the timeline for both of these sites. And when we're thinking about art at this site, there's a lot of different types of art, and just at what point does that weave its way in?
Yep. So we're starting that conversation tonight.
Okay.
So, yep. So we will have, we haven't talked specifically about Groveland, Clark and Groveland, with the Arts Council, I wanted to make sure that you just had the overview of the process.
Okay, gotcha.
The second half of the presentation is all public art. So
Okay.
we're going to start that now. And then your kind of the discussion tonight will inform what is documented in the final plan, and then those projects will, be developed in the future. So it's something very similar to like what we did for Luther Waterfront. We followed kind of the same process. We came to the Arts Council, I believe in 2021, after having gone through kind of an early design phase. I think we were at the 30% design phase for that project. So we'd gotten a lot of community input. We had started the design. The project team had identified project area or public art opportunity areas, preferred themes that could work for the specific site, as well as like types of artwork that could work for the site as well. So then that project was kind of further developed once we got to the 60% design phase. That's when we ended up doing the call for artists, so we could integrate the artwork design into the final design process. So we are doing kind of the high level, it's not 30% design because this is a planning effort, but still high level, looking at like preferred themes, types of artwork that could work, and the actual opportunity areas as identified in the current draft preferred plans tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, this is Irene. Yeah, I have some question and comments. I really appreciate the survey, extensive community survey, because these two parks are really joyful to stay and to enjoy the beach time, especially for teens. And I read through the survey results, and they really make sense. And the planning should go with the community feedback. One of the my thoughts is that both of the park, from the parking area down to the beach, that walking path is quite steep. And today, actually, I went there, the Groveland Beach, because it was a very rainy day. So on the path, walking down, I actually slipped and fell down. And, but I didn't get hurt, luckily. But I just wonder, like, for the safety or accessibility, even not only for ADA, but also for like senior people or people walking dogs, like can implement some planning to make the path more safe to walk down, especially the rainy days. Thank you, Sarah.
I'm sorry that you slipped, and I'm happy to hear that you were not hurt. Those paths are quite steep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about project background?
So I guess we can move on to the next segment then.
Okay, great. I'll bring slides back up. Okay. Make sure we're there. There we go. Okay. So once we got the charge from City Council to move forward with actually developing the joint infrastructure plan, the project team used all of that background analysis to develop 3 design concepts for each park, which we shared with the community for feedback last fall. The concepts were designed to be interchangeable. So think a feature in concept 1, like a dock feature or a beach feature, and a feature in concept 2 could ultimately be combined into the final plan. That's how we asked the community to think about it. The photos on this slide are just examples of a couple of concepts for the parks. And we promoted these, or we gave several opportunities for the community to learn about and provide feedback on the concepts, including virtual open house presentations that were shared on Let's Talk. We did an online survey that received 180 responses, and I'll talk a little bit more about the results of that survey in a few minutes. We also held pop-ups at community events. So we were at the Mercer Island Chinese Association's Mid-Autumn Festival, as well as some other events in the community. And we also promoted these opportunities through a variety of channels. So we've sent a park neighbor mailer. We also did that for the background survey, knowing that these are 2 really neighborhood parks that are very embedded in the neighborhoods surrounding them. So we've made sure to keep the neighbors very aware of the planning effort as it's been underway. We also did, our standard MI Weekly and social media posts. We worked through our community partner channels, and then also staged posters at the parks to make sure everyone had an awareness of the project. So after that initial engagement last fall, we also did some additional outreach specifically to Mercer Island youth and teens from about October of last year to March of this year. And really, we were asking them specific questions about Groveland Beach Park, knowing that Groveland in particular is really seen as a hangout for youth and teens in the community. So we wanted to make sure that their input is reflected in the final plan. Our activities included meeting with Islander Middle School students who are part of the principal's advisory on December 11th. The photo on the screen is from that engagement. And then we also met with Mercer Island High School students in March and conducted a students-only online survey specifically about Groveland Beach, as well as promoted that on the Bridge radio station. So here are the key takeaways from the design concepts engagement. And as Irene noted, there is part of your agenda packet tonight, there is a summary of this phase of engagement. I'll note that the final report that will be adopted with the infrastructure plan will also include summaries of the first round of engagement that we did during the assessment period, as well as the teen and youth engagement that we recently wrapped up. We just didn't have those summaries ready to go yet, but they will be part of the final plan. So for Clark Beach Park, folks noted strong support for accessibility overall and a preference for a combination of grass areas, tiered seating, and natural features at the waterfront, as well as 2 pier structures, so either repaired or replaced. And also support for amenities like picnic areas and benches that facilitate more of individual group experiences as opposed to like big group gathering. At Groveland, there was also preference for grass seating areas. Both parks notably already have pretty extensive grass areas, as well as picnic pockets at the waterfront, and then strong support for a new floating dock with either an expanded platform or a detached floating dock, and preference for upgrades to the play area and the existing location, including adding seating. So all of this information, or all of the information we received at the design concepts phase was combined with staff input, as well as input from the Parks and Recreation Commission and the design team to really refine the concepts into a draft preferred plan for each park. And finally, we asked the community, can you tell us about your priorities for both parks, knowing that resources are limited? If you only had a certain amount of dollars, where would you put them? Notably, for both parks, the community said repair and enhance the docks and piers, as well as upgrade the restrooms, which not really any major surprises there. At Clark Beach Park, people also referenced the interest in accessible paths to the beach and beach amenities, followed by gathering spaces and seating amenities, and new play opportunities ranked the lowest out of these 5 options. At Groveland, slightly different. Gathering spaces and seating amenities ranked 3rd, and then new play opportunities and ADA access were tied at the lowest. I think that's likely because while it would be very wonderful to be able to provide full ADA access from the parking lot to the waterfront in Groveland, it's really not feasible, which I'll talk a little bit more about once we take a look at the preferred plan. So I'll stop there again and just see if there's any questions about what we heard from the community during the design concepts phase.
Any questions? I guess not.
Okay, I'll keep us moving. Okay, so we'll start with Clark Beach Park. Get my slides to advance. There we go. Okay, so this is the preferred plan. This is an overall plan view. So starting up here at East Mercer Way, we're showing new pedestrian path connection up to the road, as well as an improved path connection. This is an existing kind of informal dirt trail that could be improved and enhanced as part of the project. Improving and expanding the existing ADA parking, and probably most notably for Clark, the opportunity to create a fully accessible path from the parking lot to the waterfront. This will be, if this concept is included in the final infrastructure plan, the actual ADA path will need to be fully studied. So currently, none of this is really showing like preferred materials or, the final configuration of what a path might look like. But based on our early analysis and so more of a technical deep dive on the design team's part, we think that a full ADA path is feasible down to the water. So it's been included in this preferred plan. Along the path, we're showing some new seating. It would connect to an improved picnic area in this upland area, showing some of those more individual picnic spaces. And then the path would continue down to the water. At the waterfront, we are showing a fully accessible route from the North Beach all the way to the Central Pier. We talked with the Parks and Recreation Commission a couple weeks ago and got some initial input from them. One of the questions they asked was whether or not the accessible route could be extended all the way to the secondary pier. So that's something we're looking into right now. But currently we are able to show at least full access to the primary elements on the waterfront. The restroom building is proposed to be fully replaced, so it would be a smaller footprint and likely be gender neutral and possibly have an outdoor rinse-off station, especially for folks who, maybe using the beach more for kayak launching and landing. And also reducing the footprint really allows more opportunity to push the shoreline further up. So to help with the erosion issues, adding more vegetation and habitat enhancement, right? Especially along this area and kind of that middle area in order to reduce shoreline erosion and really stabilize the waterfront more. So looking up here at this North Beach area, this is an area where we are showing removing hard armoring from the shoreline. So currently you can see the outline. This is the outline of the existing sheet pile wall and concrete bulkhead that make the enclosed swim area at Clark Beach. There is a very significant drop off here. So really the only way to create a shallow swim area was literally in the 60s and 70s to drive sheets of steel into the lake bottom and create an enclosure. I think everyone likely knows that our permitting agencies don't really think very highly of those approaches anymore. So one of the things we will more than likely be required to do in order to get through permitting for the waterfront at this park is to remove all of that hard armoring as well as all of the concrete bulkhead and concrete stairs that are along the near shore and replace it with zero entry natural beach, which is what we're showing right now. The Parks and Recreation Commission was interested in maintaining swimming access here. So we are showing a delineated swim line. This would be like a swim rope. We currently put swim ropes out at Clark Beach and Groveland Beach already. Still, kind of refining, wondering if maybe we move this swim rope area over here to closer to the pier area. So that may be an element that kind of evolves with the final plan. Showing again sort of natural beach here. This is a fun feature that I will talk a little bit more once we get to the public art opportunities, but it's a sculptural seating element, currently kind of shown as a fish sculpture. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Continuing over to the Central Beach area, we are improving all of the picnic areas here. Clark has a lot of opportunity for picnicking already, so this would really be improving what's in place. And then showing replacing those concrete stairs and bulkhead that go into the water with zero entry, more natural beach, including kind of a new concrete stair element. These would be wide seed steps. So again, probably wide enough to put a blanket on and lay out or sit, as well as the grass terrace area. And then for the existing piers, we are showing restoring the piers in place. Both of these are fixed piers, so they do sit somewhat high out of the water. The current approach or thought is that no changes would be made necessarily to the heights of the piers, but we would repair all of the piles that are degrading, as well as replace all of the decking to bring them up to modern era. And then in between the two existing piers, we are showing some more shoreline enhancement and restoration. Clark Beach is in the Cedar Water Rivershed, so it is part of the migratory path for salmon. It is part of the RIA 8 inventory, so that provides us opportunities for grant programs for shoreline restoration and rehabilitation, and also really a commitment on our part at the city to do as much shoreline enhancement and natural restoration along the shoreline as possible. So that is another reason, this plan is really showing removing as much of the hard armoring along the shoreline is to enhance the fish habitat. And then, so this is just an enlargement of the shoreline, shown from a different view. So again, you can see some more of these details. We've got this ADA path coming down, the sculptural seat wall. This kind of groin area, bulkhead would be replaced, but this is a really beautiful kind of view area right here in the North Beach. So we're showing kind of replacing that with a new opportunity, a new sort of groin structure. Natural beach features like logs and boulders and plantings, a lot of opportunity for restoration, more of a beach area close to this pier, and then again, those wide seat steps. And like I mentioned, still exploring opportunity for maybe extending the ADA path all the way to the existing fishing pier. Clark Beach is also an area where our natural resources team has completed a lot of restoration efforts over the years. So, as part of any improvements implemented here and at Groveland, the natural resources team would be involved and looking at, opportunities for more restoration within the forest habitat in the upland areas as well. Okay, I'm going to stop there before I go to Groveland. I know it's a lot, but if anybody has questions or wants to look at anything in a little more detail, discuss a little more detail, I'm happy to do that.
You had mentioned talking more about the fish seating area.
Yes, so just kind of a little highlight. I actually have a rendering of it that I will share more when we're talking about public art, but our design team identified, this really beautiful seating area on the North Beach as maybe an opportunity for a sculptural functional site element. So I have a rendering that I'll show in a few slides that kind of shows a little more about what the fish looks like, but that is something, if it's a project that the Arts Council was interested in, there are many opportunities, a few different ways that we could approach a commission like that. You could do your own call for artists to identify an artist. We could work with whoever the designer is for the eventual, capital project and have them bring on an artist to implement it. So a lot of opportunities, but it was really fun that the design team was thinking about that already at this stage without our prompting.
Other questions? Yeah, this is just really beautiful. I just can't wait. It's too bad it's going to take so many years. Um, but yeah, just so much thanks to the city for such a wonderful design concept. So I guess we'll move on then.
All right, on to Groveland. So again, we've got the overall plan view here. So starting in the parking lot, I think Groveland, even more so than Clark, is very embedded in the neighborhood. So we heard a fair amount about wayfinding, getting to the park, both, off the upper road and then once you're down here in the parking area. So probably starting with some opportunities for more wayfinding out of the parking lot or in the street. Connecting in, so as I mentioned before, unfortunately, Groveland is not a ideal site for providing a fully accessible path from the parking lot to the waterfront. I think the trails there are very steep. We have slopes upwards of 80% in some areas. So the plan is really showing maintaining the existing trail and providing ADA access wherever we can. That comes in a few different forms. So the first is really along here on the waterfront. This is a proposed full ADA path that would connect the swim dock with the restrooms, as well as a path down to the water. And then also proposing that for the playground renovation, we provide an ADA accessible and nature inspired upland play area that would include play equipment and play area surfacing for a variety of abilities and a range of age groups. I will talk about this kind of grayed out ADA element at the end because it is a potential opportunity, but not necessarily set in stone in the plan yet. But kind of getting further down to the water, so there is an existing secondary path here that we are proposing improving. I think some people use this path to go back up from the water because the stairs are sometimes easier than a very steep hill. Don't really know how that works, but it does. So this path would connect to the play area like it does already, and then it would be refurbished all the way down to the water, likely be a mix of maybe gravel or packed dirt and timber curb steps. But again, no materials have really been identified, except potentially in areas where, we know we'll need some concrete for like ADA pads and hill stabilization. Once we get down to the waterfront, we're showing improved grass areas. So again, interest in the grass terraces and then these wide seed steps. This path down here would provide an accessible route all the way to the water. And then the connection between the restroom and the replaced swim dock would also provide access. At the swim dock, so noted that the community was really interested in probably a combination of a floating dock with an enlarged platform or potentially a detached floating dock. So we kind of combined those ideas. What's showing now is a combination of new swim structures. So this primary swim structure could be a floating dock. So mentioning the wave attenuation opportunities earlier. And then these new gangways, one would connect to the bulkhead and the other could connect to kind of a fixed pier situation. And this could be kind of another hangout opportunity for youth, knowing that they really love this park. It is showing a diving board and an enlarged hammock. So I think that would be super fun to go, hang out over the water. We are exploring, so again, with the Parks and Recreation Commission a few weeks ago, there were some questions about maybe the realities of installing a diving board. I know a lot of other jurisdictions around Lake Washington have been taking their diving boards out. Some questions about the depths of water here. So we are still kind of exploring like what types of features could potentially be incorporated, but this is just to give you an idea of some elements that could be added. So back on the beach, we're showing the existing tree to remain. There's a big legacy tree down there, and this design helps us maintain it. I think maybe one of the biggest changes at the currently showing at the waterfront is the removal of the sand volleyball court. So in our initial round of engagement, we asked the community about the sand volleyball court, whether they wanted it maintained in place, potentially moved to a different area in the park or removed altogether. And through our first round of engagement, we really heard either keep the volleyball court where it is or get rid of it. When we presented our initial findings from the Parks and Recreation Commission, they asked us to go out to the youth community, youth and teens in particular, to ask them about the volleyball court. So that was really the primary focus of our engagement over the last few months with youth and teens, which culminated at the end of last month. So right now, we are showing kind of this nebulous teen hangout space, and you'll note to be further designed, potentially, with students through classroom projects and that sort of thing, but really just making sure that an identified designated space for young people is maintained at Groveland. I will say that through the engagement with teens, I heard from a lot of them that they do love the volleyball court. They do use it often, but they also just really want an activity-based space. So not necessarily just another place to go like hang out and lounge, but a space where they can set up their spike ball or bring their own volleyball net, and really a place to be active. So, based on that feedback, we're still kind of evaluating what this space will look like in the final preferred plan. It could be kind of, it could be reconfigured as like a half court sand volleyball, or it could be reconfigured as like a flexible activity space. But just making sure that in space for teens is called out in the plan was rose up as a priority through the design process. Further over near the restroom area, so we are proposing renovating the existing restroom area instead of replacing it like at Clark, and then renovating the stair connection. There is a cobble beach in this area already, so we would enhance that and probably improve the stairs and do some more shoreline restoration. Like with Clark, Groveland has opportunities for forest restoration as well. So our natural resources team would be involved in that process once we really dig into the more robust design efforts. Okay, so I mentioned the canopy boardwalk up here. So like I said, we're not able to provide ADA access all the way down to the water, unfortunately. But our design team studied this area and determined that we could potentially incorporate this cool new feature. We're calling it the Canopy Tree Boardwalk. So it would provide a fully ADA accessible path from the parking lot all the way down to this viewing and seating area. There is a clearing right here, and so the view shed is actually pretty spectacular already. And then an accessible path all the way to the playground. When we asked the community about this feature, we really posed it as, would you prefer to implement this new feature over other features? And so first and foremost, the community said, we would prefer to do other work first. And then if there's resources left over, we would like to do the tree canopy boardwalk. So we've incorporated it here as a potential opportunity to study in the future. Discussions will still be had on whether or not it makes it into the final plan, but it is currently showing right now as an opportunity that could be studied later. Okay, and then moving on again to the shoreline engagement or enlargement. So similarly, we have kind of a bulkhead and groin connected to or attached at the end of the property line. That would be removed when the existing dock is removed, and it would be replaced with an aluminum gangway connector. There is a concrete bulkhead here in this sort of overall swim area. We're proposing removing that as well, again, to reduce the hard armoring along the shoreline and replacing it with zero entry beach. In particular at Groveland, the community really enjoys the sandy beach. So it is likely here that we would do kind of a mix or a transition. So maybe further up landward, we'd have more of the sandy mix, and then it would transition more into kind of the fish habitat gravel mix that's better for the habitat restoration. Let's see, anything else in particular here? I think those are really the big pieces. Again, we have a lot of grass at Groveland already, so this design aims to maintain that and provide other seating opportunities in the form of these wide seat steps. So I will pause there again. If there's any questions about Groveland.
Questions?
I have one question. It's in these projects, how does lighting play? Is there just lights in the parking lots or no lights or lights in any pathways?
So we do have a park zone that was adopted, I believe, last year, Ryan. Ryan was way more involved in that project than I was. And I believe it does have stipulations about where lighting is allowed in park spaces. Is that correct, Ryan?
That's correct. Yes, the new park zone does have some pretty significant limitations. However, safety lighting, low-level pathway lighting, those kinds of things are allowed essentially through the park zone.
Are you thinking about some pathway lighting in these areas?
At this level, we aren't. We haven't gotten into that much detail. I think the next stage, once we get into the actual design process for each park, then that's when more of a robust code analysis comes in. And so we'd be looking like at the park zone, our stormwater code, all of everything related to the shoreline master program, to really inform kind of what those specific design elements could be based on the regulations.
Sarah, if I could chime in also. Again, Ryan Daly, I don't think I have my camera on. One of the challenges, I'll just highlight a challenge with Groveland specifically. We do from time to time run into late night parties and fun, extracurricular fun happening down there after park hours. So that is something to contemplate with additional lighting. When you're adding lighting, you're essentially inviting people into that space after hours. So that would be something that we'd want to take a look at as we contemplate what that might look like as we move forward with the plan.
And sorry, Suzanne again here. Just for that, to that point, are you looking at gates to come down at Groveland so that we can control both seafarer? I've met you down there before. You know, what is the thought around the controlling the hours by controlling the parking?
So again, we haven't gotten that far into it. I think some of that would come with, looking at our park regulation policies. We do have our parks are regulated by codes, safety codes, that include like park hours and that sort of thing. I believe here, I think Clark and Groveland are both 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., but I can't remember correctly. We do have in some parks, we have like safety entrance gates, maintenance gates that are controlled only by like a code. So staff have the code and they're able to get down the pathway with a maintenance vehicle and that sort of thing. But we don't really currently like rope off parking areas or anything like that, as far as I know. Ryan, am I correct in that?
You're correct. We don't currently, I'm trying to think of all of our park sites. I don't believe we have any that are fenced to pedestrians. So we do have the ability to close off parking lots via chain, but you can step over that 2-foot chain without issue. So that's not something that we have implemented in the Mercer Island Park system. Other neighboring jurisdictions do that. I have my personal feelings about what a fenced-in park looks like. That maybe I'm not as inclined to see fences. But that being said, there are the real elements of challenges that we run into after hours, like I spoke about before. So it's definitely something for us to continue to consider as we move forward with both of these park locations.
Anybody else?
Can I just add something? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm the council liaison to the RIA 8 committee, and just something that I learned just starting on that committee is that, and just talking about the lighting, that we try not to have any lights shining into the water. I'm not saying that we do, but just something to keep in mind, because when you shine light into the water, that attracts salmon and also attracts prey to the salmon. So it's just something that I learned recently while being on Raya 8, just to be careful not to have any lighting shine into the water.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like at Luther, we're not installing any new lighting, not lighting the docks or anything like that. We're actually removing one light pole, we're replacing another. So yeah, really the light penetration like that can be an issue. And that also brings up kind of a good point about the overwater structures themselves. So, currently at both parks, the overwater structures, the docks have timber decking. Based on permitting requirements, we will likely need to update the type of decking we use. So it will likely be some form of graded decking. At Luther, for instance, we're using a fiberglass reinforced plastic that is graded. And that is in part to support fish habitat in the nearshore area. So, here what we're showing, like this, if this were a floating swim dock, it would probably be a concrete floating dock. It would likely have all graded decking or some percentage of graded decking at least. These gangways would likely be aluminum and also be graded. So just something to keep in mind. I know at both docks, well, at Groveland in particular, I know, people like layout on the dock and that sort of thing. Will be able to do that. The material will just likely be different based on the permitting requirements.
One more comment. I have one more comment. I know how rigorous the ADA requirements are, but I would like us to think about the 1-year-old to whatever, 8-year-old population, and think that that is their access as well. And that might be an art opportunity to engage them onto those paths, so that they can mature developmentally, independence, safety. I just, maybe some people think ADA, well, I'm not going to use that, but a lot of people, take advantage of those, and especially the little ones that are just learning their independence. So I'd love to see the ADA pathways.
Just to add on to that, I mean, it's great to have ADA pathways. I fully support it so that we can be an inclusive community. It's also really nice for parents with strollers as well, or wagons, or, not parents, just people with wagons carrying their stuff to the beach. So they really do help the whole community.
Anyone else? Okay, Sarah, do you have any more?
Yeah, so now we get to the fun part.
Okay.
So, again, I wanted to give you all the background on this project, so kind of where we started and where we are today. As I noted, these projects, so the infrastructure plan will result in, future capital projects, whether those are phased capital projects or, one big capital project for renovations for each. We're not at that level of planning yet, but all that to say that they will result in 1% for art contributions. And, as you know, through all your public art planning, there's often opportunities to just bank the 1% for art money and use it on a future project. Or there's opportunities to really integrate public art into the existing site. And I think, based on what we've heard from the community through the engagement process, how the design has started to unfold, like from concept to preferred plan, there are a lot of opportunities for integrating public art at both Clark and Groveland. And so we really wanted to come forward to you all and make sure that we reviewed those opportunities with you, and the ones that stand out to you as the Arts Council get documented in the final plan. And like I mentioned before, we'll be back and use our process for administering the public art program, whether that's commissioning works of art, acquiring works of art, working with future design teams to integrate art into the actual capital project. So there will be future opportunities for the Arts Council and, of course, the community to weigh in on those specific projects. Okay, so starting back at Clark Beach, we identified a few different opportunity areas. So the first one is along the proposed ADA pathway. So, thinking likely there will be areas where we will need handrails, railings. That's an opportunity for integrating public art. Several Arts Council members noted that accessibility doesn't just mean mobility, it can mean a variety of ages. This could be a good opportunity for discovery elements along the path, especially knowing if families would likely choose this path because it would be a little bit easier to get up and down to the water. So that's the first area. The second area is the replaced restroom facility. Third area is this North Beach seating area, which has already kind of been called out for that sculptural seating. Fourth, here at the central waterfront, with the concrete stairs looking out on the water. And then the fifth is kind of this natural restoration area. So I guess I'll back up. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna walk through kind of these different categories, opportunity areas, potential themes, types of artwork, just so you can kind of see the whole lay of the land. And then we can go back and kind of go through each one. But I think it's helpful to kind of see everything, and then we can decide, really talk through more about what your preferences are. So that's Clark. At Groveland, we identified 4 potential areas. So the first, again, is with this potential ADA tree canopy boardwalk. The second is the natural play area, play renovation. Third is the renovated restroom building. And fourth, down here at the waterfront. So these themes have been identified primarily through what we heard from the community, as well as kind of just the opportunities that have emerged as the design has unfolded. So first and foremost, we really heard from the community for both parks that they would like to preserve the natural and forest character of the parks. I think that makes total sense given how forested each park is. So that could be a good opportunity, a good theme to pursue in future public art projects for each park. Also, there's opportunity in highlighting the ecological functions of the shorelines, especially at Clark, knowing that it's part of the migratory pattern of salmon. So that could be a good opportunity for some interpretive elements that are arts-based. We also heard a lot about community connection to the parks and at Groveland in particular, but also the history of the parks. Each park has a pretty unique history of how it came to be. And, there is very strong community connection. So that could be a really interesting theme to pursue at one or both parks, and, a good opportunity for really engaging the community in the art making process potentially. And then a fun one that I heard, and this one came primarily from the young people I talked to, was the idea that the blue restrooms are landmarks, especially from the water. You can see this. This is the restroom at Groveland, and it is certainly a landmark. So knowing that both restroom facilities will either be replaced or renovated, there may be an opportunity to kind of carry that kind of landmark idea forward. Okay, so in terms of project types, we've really identified like 3 high-level types of projects. So the first is directional and interpretive elements. So that could be something like interpretive signage along the shoreline that highlights the ecological functions of the shoreline or the history of the parks. It could be, maybe interpreted in even more of an artistic way. I really liked this example of these stonefish kind of swimming through the grass. That could be kind of an interesting opportunity to kind of connect people to the actual functions of the waterfront in an artistic way. Just some more opportunities for signage. So I don't know if anyone has seen the Dambo trolls that are around the Northwest or in other parts of the world, but they've done some really interesting things with integrated signage and incorporation of poetry and in some cases music. So that could be a fun interpretive element, maybe highlighting the history of the parks or other elements. And then I included this one here, the Luther Burbank Park Boiler Building sign. So this is a real sign that will be installed down at the boiler building. This is part of the interpretive wayfinding program we developed when we did the boiler building renovations a couple of years ago. So this is
showing pictures or
yes. Can
we're
you?
not
Oh,
no.
you're not seeing. Uh-oh. Let me stop sharing. Let's see if it'll. Okay, let me try again. Can you see them now? Okay, great. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Okay, so again, just to kind of go through, this is the sort of more traditional interpretive sign. This one with the fish swimming through the grass is kind of a more artistic approach to interpretation. A sample of an interpretive program that we're already implementing at Luther Burbank, and then just some other ideas, for arts-based signage that could either be used for directional elements or interpretive elements. Can you all see these photos? Okay, perfect. Okay, so the second project type is functional site elements. So that could be something like arts-based kind of play. So this is an example of a sculptural natural play element that could potentially be implemented in the renovated play area at Groveland, for instance, or opportunities for, smaller scale, something like this along the shoreline at either park. And then this photo over here is actually the rendering of the North Beach area that shows that kind of sculptural fish bench. So you can see it's two-tiered seating. They're kind of showing two separate fish. So the bottom fish, its head is facing towards us with its tail out beyond, and then kind of reversed here. So again, this hasn't been designed. It's just an idea to think about, but I liked the idea of incorporating, a functional site element, making that kind of a special seating area potentially. Obviously, the material is shown as concrete, but if we were to pursue a functional site element like this or something else, materials would be explored through the design process and the work with commissioning an artist. And then the final project type is integrated media. So I think this is maybe some more of your kind of traditional public art projects. So I talked a little bit about the restroom buildings as landmarks. So, this is an idea, of course, knowing that the community really wants to preserve the natural character of the parks, but potentially we could try something new of the new restroom buildings, like with a new mural that kind of is in shades of blue and mirrors that more historic restroom that was there. I noted that there will likely be some hand railings that we need to install on the ADA pathways. So similar to what's installed at the stairwell at the community center, we could do an integrated element like a laser cut metal or cast metal as part of the hand railings. These two pictures show ideas for integrating media into concrete stairs. So both plans show those wide seat steps at the waterfront. This top photo includes etching. And then, this is actually tile, this bottom photo. I wouldn't necessarily recommend tile at the waterfront, but you could do something like paint the stairs in an interesting pattern that, it's only seen from the water. So it creates that element of discovery again, and also kind of creates that landmark element from the water. And then this sculpture is, I would say, maybe more on the side of like a showstopper or something like that. I know a lot of the public art projects we've done recently have been smaller scale or more integrated into the landscape. I wanted to show this as an opportunity because I know some folks are interested in it, but thinking more about like along the forested pathways, is there an opportunity for maybe like a hidden sculpture, something made out of natural materials? Maybe it's made with the community or with the forest stewardship program, but tucked away, something you can find while you're on those paths in the upland areas. This sculpture in particular is at the Price Sculpture Forest on Whidbey Island, and it actually serves as like a nesting location for swifts when they're in season in the park. So, that's another way to kind of connect to the natural history and natural functions of the parks. There are bald eagles that nest at Clark Beach Park. I know there were bald eagles out at Groveland, several juveniles, just a few, I think, last week. So, that could be an opportunity, an interesting way to kind of integrate art into the wildlife habitats that already exist. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there. I think I'm gonna stop sharing. So I'm happy to bring anything else up as we discuss, but these are really the areas. So I'm looking at the opportunity areas. I can pull those back up again. Then the preferred themes, and then the preferred project types. Really looking for your input on what you feel could be or should be documented in the plan. And if this, and now seeing the plans in their draft form currently, if this has inspired like any other ideas that you might have that you want to discuss.
Ideas?
Yeah, I have a comment. I saw the feedback about the about the community would like to keep the natural look of this area and two parks. I personally live nearby and I enjoy the natural look and the environment a lot. I just wonder, like for those 1% arts fund, is that can also go with other public art project, right? It's not just limited to this the project like these two parks.
Correct. So, if the Arts Council was not interested in implementing a public art project at Clark Beach or Groveland Beach, the 1% contribution generated from those capital projects that ultimately result from the plan would then be banked into the fund, and they could be used on future public art projects. I think that for the purposes of kind of this level where we are, I would recommend documenting the public art opportunities that speak to the Arts Council in the preferred plan, in the final infrastructure plan. And then once we get to those capital projects, that's when you can reevaluate, well, do we actually want to do a project at Groveland, or has another priority come up through the overall public art planning process, and those funds would be better served to support X priority instead.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Okay. So in that case, I saw that in the plan in the Groveland Beach, there is going to propose a teen hangout area. That area may be more vibrant and might be potential for art, public art.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot. And before we had the presentation coming into the meeting, I was thinking about something that could be contemplative, that could cause people to want to stop and think, especially youth, to be present in the moment. So if that is the teen space, if there's a way to engage them or influence their conversation, I think there's a lot of potential there. I think that's an exciting idea.
I like the idea of, the interpretive signs and educating the public about the habitat aspects of the park, and something maybe people don't know that much about that we could educate them about to increase awareness at both parks.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in on that. I agree with that, and also just thinking about how to use in a way that isn't obtrusive. So very, back to the keeping it natural, but educating and some of the elements of the nature that they're actually observing.
I'll jump in and one thing about teenagers, they need something to do and they kind of are little kids inside, and giving them opportunity to be children might be really fun. I don't know how many of you have walked the new waterfront park at the city of Seattle, but it's just one discovery after another. One fun one are these giant swings. And I think, at that age group, they like to be kinetic. They like photos. I would think about for that Groveland, I would think about, again, sort of stopper, three-dimensional, large, and opportunities for photographing, because they're going to want to, I mean, if you have a 8-foot heart that the kids can crawl into the inside of and take their photo out on the floating dock with our park in the background, I mean, they're going to be doing that all day long. So they need stuff to do. And so I would be looking for those kind of opportunities, photo opportunities, touch exploration. I'm not sure how much reading they're going to do or contemplating. I think it's a great idea, but I think they're pretty kinetic and looking for opportunities to, engage with each other. So that's and Sarah always knows I'm always for the showstopper. I don't want little tiny ducks that are only 3
Yeah.
inches tall.
Yeah, that one was for you specifically, Suzanne.
I appreciate that.
I think a showstopper and a selfie moment, I think that's a fabulous idea. I think there's also layers of discovery. So we can think about a large showstopper moment, and we can think about other layers of discovery within that showstopper moment. There could be etchings or messages on the heart, for example, the large heart itself, that cause that moment of reflection or that moment of contemplation, even if it's something they take away with them at home that night and it's not in the moment at the park. But I do think there's layers there that can be explored and that can be pushed in the future that could potentially tie back to the vision for the Mercer Island parks. And then, I think there's something there. There's just something there with connection to nature, connection to people, connection to community, inherent in parks, and our community. Every community really needs that right now. So if we can use art as a way to bridge that gap, that's a beautiful thing. I also agree with Jonathan about teaching about nature, especially the fish at Clark Beach. That makes perfect sense. I didn't know that about the salmon, and I would love to learn more. And I think a lot of people would appreciate that opportunity. I echo everyone's thoughts on the art being natural. And I think there's ways for it to be a showstopper, or for it to be large, or for it to be impactful and still not take away from the natural environment as well. And your note about the eagles too, that just felt appropriate at Groveland, to think about that potentially being an element that could weave its way in. And then just one last thought was something I had brought up a year ago, thinking about impact, like what's the impact of this piece and what's the cost? Because a mural on the side of the bathroom has high impact and low cost. A large wooden sculpture out of reclaimed wood by a well-known artist is beautiful, and it may also have high impact, but also high cost. So just keeping that in mind as we're pursuing things and trying to make decisions.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, the cost issue is definitely something we need to think about, because we have talked about the sculpture park as being a high priority in terms of future projects. So just something to keep in mind. Also, I'm just curious about the demographics of users at Groveland and Clark. Would it be incorrect to say that the users at Clark skew older and are more local, like in terms of people who live fairly, near the south end and versus Groveland Beach?
Yeah, I think so through the survey results, we kind of saw the most of survey respondents for both surveys were more Mid-Island and South Island. But I think, at Clark, like a lot of the uses are more passive, although I have heard through this process that a lot of families with young children have used the park to teach their kids to swim, since it currently does have that shallow swim area. So I think, in the summer months, there's definitely more families out there. Yeah, I think Groveland is one that gets more, maybe non-local, off-island traffic, less non-neighborhood traffic. I think with Seafair, we all know about Groveland and Seafair. But also just, I think Groveland is one that truly is more kind of teen, like older youth, teen centric. So I think people go down there with their friends from other communities and that kind of thing. When we did the outreach with kids, like they noted, I'm at Groveland like 3 or 4 times a week in the summer. So really, like it is, you definitely see a lot of younger people at Groveland than you would at Clark, I think.
We have other questions, comments? So,
Can I say something? Sorry, I was trying to find my unmute button. So I want to just say I really applaud, the staff for putting this information out in Let's Talk. And also I saw it on Facebook. I saw it in the newsletter that gets sent out to community. So I think that's really wonderful. And I hope that you continue to do that as you go through the development stages of getting to this final plan. So yeah, I think the community would definitely appreciate, just staying in the loop for the entirety. And I commend you for already doing that. Thank you.
anybody else?
And I just wanted to say thank you too, Sarah, for all your work in putting the examples together. I think it's really helpful. It stimulates thinking, and you brought up a lot of really great points that I didn't know about both of those parks. So,
Great.
Anyone
Great.
else? So, Sarah, you have more for us?
No, so that was really it, except just to kind of talk a little bit about next steps. So I'm going to take all of the information, your comments that you provided me tonight, and compile them to, document with the final plan. I think primarily what I heard from confirmation that, emphasis on the natural character, the forested setting of each park is of interest. But finding ways to kind of weave discovery and like different layers. Maybe there could be a kind of bigger piece that has different layers to it. Then really, a lot about like youth engagement, especially with a project at Groveland. And again, opportunities for education, opportunities for kind of connection with the space and with each other. So I think I have a lot of great information to compile what will be added. So what it will effectively, how it will be documented in the plan. It will be basically a memo that kind of outlines what we've talked about. It'll show those two plan views that have the opportunity areas highlighted. I will add the teen hangout area as a designated opportunity area for Groveland as well. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, once the plan is adopted, your input on public art integration at this stage will be incorporated. And, nothing is set in stone with that. There will be many opportunities to come back. We'll come back through the various capital projects once projects come online, kind of that process I had outlined before with the Luther Burbank waterfront improvements. I would come back and do a very similar thing at different design stages. And then at those times, you all as a body can decide, one, do we want to move forward with a project for any of these capital projects, or would we prefer to maintain the funding for a future project? And then two, how do we want to implement it? So a lot of opportunity coming up in the future. These, like we talked about, these projects are decade long projects, but I think that we have a really great start of integrating public art in ways that are meaningful and fit the character of both parks. So I really appreciate all of your input. like just kind of in general with the infrastructure plan, we are currently on track to adopt it by the end of the year. So hopefully, we'll then be able to roll into some early design work for Clark, but I will definitely keep you all updated and the community updated via Let's Talk and our other outreach on kind of the progress and the timing for everything. So I really appreciate all of your input tonight and your attention. I know this was a long presentation.
We really appreciate your hard work and staff's work, and it's really amazing work, and so we thank you. So I guess then we'll move on to our next regular item. Okay, so the next item of regular business tonight is the Standing Strong Veterans Pergola cost estimates, appropriate use, and maintenance guidelines. We welcome back Katie Herzog, Interim Recreation Manager and Staff Liaison.
Thank you, and apologies for my earlier Wi-Fi connection. Happy that Ryan is on standby in case I have any other difficulties. But tonight we will continue our conversation on the Standing Strong Veterans Pergola, going over some cost estimates, appropriate use, and maintenance guidelines. So we'll touch a little bit on the background. Then we'll dive into those cost estimates. We will view the draft use guidelines and maintenance plan. And we do have a recommendation if the Arts Council so approves. So as you all know, the Veterans Pergola was installed in 2005 in Mercerdale Park to honor U.S. veterans. It was designed after community input, emphasizing reflection, performance, and a gathering space. At our October meeting, we reviewed the history and discussed potential updates to bring back for cost estimates. And it was also recognized that appropriate use guidelines and a maintenance plan were needed to guide that original community vision. So currently, we have 5 armed forces plaques on the pergola. In 2019, the U.S. Space Force was officially established as the 6th branch of the armed forces. So that plaque is not represented on the pergola as it being the newest addition. A fabrication for a new Space Force plaque is estimated to be about $1,000, and we're looking at another $2,000 to $3,000 for the installation. It was also brought to our attention from a community member that spoke at our October meeting. The pergola has not been repainted since 2011. Based on its current conditions, lifestyle expectations, repainting is recommended between now and the next, 5 years, I would say. And the estimated repainting cost of that is $15,000. So in your packet, you have the developed draft guidelines to clarify and document appropriate use of the pergola. What we did is we want to ensure that activities remain consistent with its artistic intent and as a memorial and community gathering space. In that appropriate use guidelines document, there's also the maintenance plan, which hopefully provides clarity to support the long-term preservation, safety, and visual integrity of the structure. We can go over questions, of course, on that use plan and pull it up on the screen if we want to. But tonight we are looking for a recommendation of including those repainting costs, the procurement and installation of that additional 6th plaque. And what we would do is put those costs in the upcoming 27-28 biennial operating budget. And if the Arts Council sees fit, we would like to endorse those draft guidelines on appropriate use and the maintenance plan. So now we will take any questions or discussion. And again, if anyone wants to see the appropriate use guidelines, we can pull that up as well.
Have any comments? So I had a question about the permitted use section. Can I ask that?
Yes.
So it says here, under permitted uses, installation, will be city installed seasonal decorations, displays and enhancements, lighting, flower baskets, sunshade, and for lighting, that would include would include lanterns as well, right? Would be permitted.
So that next bullet down where it says Arts Council supported temporary art installations, the lantern project is a good example of a temporary art installation that we would run by the Arts Council prior to installing something there. But the lanterns would fall into that category of something temporary, something that the city and the Arts Council support, and something that would be community oriented and community based for arts and culture.
So the lanterns though are seasonal decorations, aren't they? When you think of them as seasonal decorations?
The seasonal decorations in that bullet point um, was referring more to the lights that are wrapped around the pergola for the winter months. So when we do the lighting in town center, the lighting for the tree lighting Sequoia and Mercedale Park, our staff is also lighting the pergola and wrapping that in lights for the winter season. So that we're, kind of considering not necessarily a temporary art installation, but more of a seasonal enhancement that the city staff is putting together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was wondering if anyone had any opinions or comments about the lanterns issue. Do you agree
Um,
with?
can you just tell me more about the issue there? What's the issue? Is it allowed or not?
So I can give you a little background that the lantern project, we're currently not doing it. We did it in the past years, that it was a community art that people could paint and decorate paper lanterns. And then we hung them around the pergola for a period of time. And I think our period of time was a 2-month time frame that, yes, was in the winter, and it also coincided with Lunar New Year. And so it was like a community art project that then was installed temporarily in Mercerdale Park. And again, we're not currently running that program because we are partnering with the Chinese Association for Lunar New Year. So we are putting our resources there. But that would be an example of a temporary art installation on the pergola.
So you're saying for any future temporary art installation, you would be asking the Arts Council whether or not to approve it?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I support the guidelines the way they were written. I know that I had empathized with the citizen that had brought it up in the concept of the standing strong memorial and having things hanging, feeling like it was weighing down, but contemplating the project, contemplating its use, contemplating its dual use, I fully support it being a place of community and a place of gathering, and also a place of paying respect to our veterans.
Yeah, I second that, and I think I would support the improvement plan and to put that into the budget. Thank you.
Katie, I agree. I support the the improvements being put in the budget and the plan. I just had a question about in that permitted uses section, again, the organized group activities or classes. And do those run through the city, or how do those get quote unquote approved?
Yeah, so we have a permitting process through the city. So anytime someone wants to have an organized activity, a picnic in the park, something that qualifies as maybe a special event in a park space, they do have to fill out a special event permit application that goes through city staff. We have an internal committee that reviews it. So park staff. Depending on the event, it could be police that weigh in. If people want to close a street as well to a park space, the right-of-way team weighs in as well. So it's a full process of applying to get a permit to have, your event in a park space. So if someone wanted to have a class there, it would be ran through our city staff and determined if it, meets those permitting guidelines to then issue a permit or, talk with the applicant of can't do it here in this space, but here's somewhere else you may be able to do it. So we do have a full, permit process and guidelines set up internally.
Anyone else? Okay, if we don't have any more comments, I guess you're asking us to vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, yeah, hearing no comments, I guess we can move towards
A
approving
motion?
a motion to endorse the draft pergola appropriate use and maintenance guidelines. So does anyone move to do that?
I can put forward a motion to approve the guidelines for the pergola. Endorse the draft pergola appropriated use and maintenance guidelines.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I guess we can move towards a vote then.
Well, thank you, Chair. Councillor Kratzer,
Approve.
Councillor Rock,
Approve.
Chair Harrington,
Approve.
Councillor Rajagopal,
Approve.
Vice Chair Scone.
Approve.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, the motion passes. And then, so now we can move on to other business and absences.
Oh.
Counselors.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
If I might, we are also seeking a recommendation. The first bullet highlighted on the repainting costs and procurement.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So you'd like to vote on that as well?
Yes, please.
So, yeah, so we have a motion to approve the repainting budget that's been submitted. So, would anyone like to make a move to do that?
I move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Chair, could I ask for before the second? Sorry, could I ask for a clarification on the specific motion that's being made, and for your benefit, it is on the screen up above if you're willing to make that motion.
Okay, so you want me to read it word for word? Okay.
I could read it.
No,
if
I'll
you'd like.
read it. No.
Okay.
So staff has recommended to include repainting costs, procurement, installation of U.S. Space Force plaque in the 2027-28 biannual operating budget. So then I'm asking for a motion to approve or vote on. So would anyone like to move to do that?
I'll make the motion to the recommendation that Jonathan just read.
I'll second it. So, counselors, please turn on your microphones. Will the city staff please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Scone,
Approve.
Councillor Rajagopal,
Approve.
Chair Harrington,
Approve.
Councillor Rock,
Approve.
and Councillor Kratzer.
Approve.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so counselors, does anyone have a planned absence for our regular meeting scheduled for Wednesday, July 15th, 2026? So I guess we don't have anything to vote on there. So I guess we can move on here to is there any other business that anyone would like to bring up at this point?
I just wanted to read I found the vision from the 2022 plan at the top of the document, which I've now lost. And I had wanted to read that to everybody just so that they knew it, because I thought it was helpful to hear. There were some keywords. The City of Mercer Island Parks Recreation and Open Space Plan creates a vision for an innovative, inclusive, and interconnected system of parks, trails, and open spaces that promotes recreation, health, environmental conservation, and fiscal responsibility as integral elements of a thriving, livable Mercer Island. And I can share, I think, in an email afterwards too. I'd be happy to share with everyone, because I just think there's key words in there that we can lean into and fall back on when we're trying to make decisions, big decisions about how money is spent for the arts on the island.
Would anyone else like to make any final comments? So the next meeting will be an opportunity for us to think about new ideas for the coming year. So I encourage everyone to go out and talk to your community, talk to islanders, and get some ideas from our neighbors about what they would like to see happen in the coming year. And then we can jump right into our business in July.
The speaker that spoke and, the public that spoke at the beginning of the meeting and mentioned arts on the island in August. What do we know about that? How can we get a couple art council representatives that are engaged in that?
Yeah, so Arts on the, oh no, okay,
Go
I'm
ahead.
back. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna put my video off to hopefully help my Wi-Fi. Arts on the Island weekend is going to be in conjunction with Art Uncorked. So we have a grant that we are using to make a weekend long celebration. So I'm in the process of working with the chamber, of course, who puts on Art Uncorked. Myval has some ideas as well, and then teaming up with the farmers market, where we'll have some extra art vendors, perhaps some youth art vendors. So it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're in our early planning stages, but really looking forward to holding an Arts on the Island weekend that can hopefully become a island tradition.
Great idea. I love that. Can we get a couple of Arts Council members in on the ground floor to help with planning or ideas, or how do we get engaged?
Yeah, I would say once Myval, kind of once Myval makes their plan for what Friday will look like. We know Saturday is Art Uncorked and we know Sunday is the farmers market. There will be opportunities to, volunteer with those groups and how we support it. We really want to market it all together. I think Anne, who spoke earlier, is a great resource for the Myval connection, and of course, Jen Dean with the chamber. I can update you as kind of the plans form, but certainly there will be, opportunities to help out.
Can you remind me the specific dates in August?
Yeah, it's going to be the very last weekend of August. So whatever those dates are. Art
29.
Uncorked typically is the first weekend of September, but because Labor Day is a little bit different this year and pushes it later, they're going to focus on that last weekend of August.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna weigh in. I just can't keep myself from weighing in on things. It does seem like I've heard some anecdotal stories about people coming to the island now on the Link Light Rail, and I see that as a real opportunity and something to be embraced. And certainly with this Arts on the Island in August, I can see we better kind of get ready for that.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if a special meeting is necessary between now and then, or if we'll be able to work through all of that in July, or is that beyond the scope of the Arts Council?
Yeah, I think once a little bit more planning is done, I would then, recommend talking with MyVol. They're looking again at kind of what Friday looks like. And then the chamber really focusing on Saturday Art Uncorked. We are using a grant from the Port of Seattle to, market this all together and make enhancements to each day. So I'd be happy to pass along information kind of once our plan becomes a little bit more solid. The chamber and I just met last week, and then after Jen and I met, she was going to meet with MyVol to get their plan in place, and so I'd be happy to, pass on more info. But again, I think it's a great opportunity to, kind of latch on to which day interests, you most as even a community member, if not an arts council member, to help make all of those days come to life.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I was thinking about it in relation to the request that Anne put in when she was speaking at the beginning of the meeting. As an arts council, if we want to discuss that or take action on that, and if we're meeting again in July, it might be hard to implement those requests if we feel that they're of value for the weekend. But we don't have to decide it now. I was just kind of
Yeah,
mind
I
that
think
it
it
was
is a
important.
good suggestion if we do need to meet again to talk about that. I do think Sarah and I need to talk further since she's really the art and public places staff member. Like we need to talk to see what really is feasible between now and the end of August. Temporary signage, like Anne mentioned, I think could be a really good addition, knowing we, wouldn't be getting permanent signage there quite yet, but some temporary signage or maps definitely could be something that we put into place. So she and I will talk more on the comments that were made tonight and then see what we can, do in maybe a faster timeline than we originally thought.
And Anne mentioned something about possibly like being on an agenda for a meeting so that instead of just a 3-minute public input where she's just talking to the Arts Council but without any response back, like being on the agenda will allow her to have more of a conversation with the Arts Council. Is that something that's possible, as this is a new event coming up?
Yeah, it could be. The thing that we really, want to stick to is the our work plan. And so the items that are on this year's work plan are really the items that the Arts Council will be focused on and focused on these meetings. Even with Arts on the Island weekend, because the city doesn't have maybe the resources and the staffing that we would like to just, do a whole weekend ourselves. That's really why we're teaming up with the chamber, the farmers market, and MyVol to put, that weekend together. We happen to have the grant dollars that can support. So I'm hesitant to say like, oh yeah, let's join a committee and get going on it when our stance is kind of to support these other groups to help make it all come together. So in terms of then, MyVol coming to talk at a meeting, if it can directly relate to one of our work plan items, I think that's great. If not for this year, then maybe we look to bring them in next year for, the new priorities that we set for 27 and 28.
I'm hearing an interest from multiple members of the Arts Council to really find a way to provide more input into preparing for this August event. And maybe there could be a way for us to get together again prior to our July meeting where we can really have an opportunity to discuss possible ways we can contribute to this process. How many of you would support having another meeting?
Jonathan, can I speak to that
Yes,
idea?
please
I
do.
think, we would be speaking for staff's time, and I don't think we're able to do that. However, I think that any one of us could reach out to MyVol and become a volunteer, and I bet they would accept us in a minute. So why don't we make, if that is of interest to us, I think reaching out to Anne and, becoming a volunteer and interacting with either the chamber, seems like a better route than kind of. I just didn't know what it was all about. That's why I was asking, just to kind of know a little bit more about it. And I appreciate, now I think I see the structure, MyVol, chamber, city, 3 entities that are working on these 3 days. And I really appreciate hearing about that.
Counselor Scone, Ryan Daly, you took the words right out of my mouth. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up to the Arts Council, your recreation team, your parks and recreation team have our heads floating right at the water line right now. This addition was something that Katie went out and was able to secure grant funds for as a way to support. We literally have no additional staff bandwidth to engage further. I don't like saying that. That's the opposite of my personality, but I just have to be upfront. You'll notice that Katie's name says interim recreation manager. She's actually backfilling my position, and we haven't backfilled her position as I've moved into sort of another role. So as staff, I do want to say we're committed to supporting our arts organizations on Mercer Island to the best of our ability. As Councilor Scone mentioned, I do want to encourage Arts Council members to engage with those community groups and support them individually in any possible way you can. As a city organization, we just don't have the ability to do that on the ground level. So if I can implore you to do that, I think that would go a really long ways. Your city staff is here to support as well as we move forward, as we identify resources that we can move forward. But as Katie mentioned, we are really tied to a work plan that has some items that are still really outstanding that we need to focus on, that were a priority established about 2 years ago. So something to think about, and then to take what I'm kind of sharing right now and think about that as we go into that July and October meeting, when we're talking about the priorities for 2027 and 2028. That's another good opportunity for us to, as an Arts Council and as staff, lay out what our priorities are and what that work plan is going to be for the next 2 years. So again, thank you for those comments, Councilor Scone.
I 100% support that and understand resource constraints. And it would be helpful to know what the grant does support, just so we know, what is available to be supported.
Absolutely, and I'll ask Katie when she gets back into town. We'll get that information out to the Arts Council.
I have been volunteer as a MyVol member in the summer occasions, like the art uncle code. Yeah, those were very well run. I think we can talk to MyVol and see if get to know their this year's plan and share our thoughts. In that case, it would be casual, but might be helpful.
Yeah, Ryan, I appreciate your your honest comments about your staff requirements. And I think there's just a general desire for all of us to help in any way we can as an arts council and as citizens of the island. So just looking for opportunities to do that. And so I just thought I would just ask the question to see what people's views were on that. But I think there are many different routes for us to get involved. And yeah, the more information we have about events like the one in August, then the more opportunities it will give to us to make a contribution. So, anybody else?
I know we want to wrap up. I just had one question, being still feeling very green in this role. The pergola that was brought to us by a citizen that we then actually spent a lot of time discussing in the meetings and then voting on today wasn't something that was in the plan. And I'm not arguing that we need to weigh you down, because I don't want to do that. And I fully support us finding other ways to make August a success. But just trying to understand, like, things like that happen and we handle them and we move on and we keep pushing forward with the plan. Um, is that kind of how it works? Because I keep hearing people bring up, council members bring up that we want to refresh the sculpture park, that there's a lot of sculptures that need to be touched up and they need to be painted. And we just voted to paint the pergola, which I support, which we support, but we keep tabling these other things that we keep bringing up, and I'm still trying to understand how it all works, I guess.
Excellent question. So the best way I can share is the pergola was definitely a one-off. I'll say that. If it became sort of an emergent need, something that we could recognize. Quite honestly, it was something. This topic wasn't a large burden of staff work. It was informing the recommendations made by the Arts Council tonight, inform additional staff work, and part of our responsibility that's ongoing is the curation and management and stewardship of our public art collection. And that's where the pergola specifically fell. The other areas where we're talking about, adding events, adding meetings, adding other items, those tend to be more of a volume for staff to manage. And so when we think about the Greta Hackett Sculpture Gallery, yes, some of the items brought forward tonight in public comment were what we might consider relatively minor or even temporary in nature, and those are easily addressed. What you're going to hear from staff as we continue to move forward, and you're kind of seeing this with the Clark and Groveland infrastructure plan, the Dean's Children's Park site plan. We're trying to get plans in place, and that's the Greta Hackett's activation plan, and I butchered that completely. But we do want, as we move forward next year, to work specifically on a broad plan that is effective and efficient with our time and resources that we move forward. And I want to be careful. In the past, fairly distant past, we were just picking singular items and working off of those relatively ineffectively, in my opinion. And so now we're really focused on planning and implementation. And so that's sort of how our new department has been broken up. You'll see Sarah Bluva, she's our planner and implementer. Katie is programs and events side. And so if you think about it in those terms, that's sort of why, in a very long-winded response to your question, why we were able to maybe pick that singular item out as opposed to a bunch of other smaller items, or pivoting and changing direction to address one-off scenarios.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Got to pop in again. I was trying to find this, and Julie, you should have reminded us. So this is an email, and you all probably received this. It was basically an invite from Anne and Julie and I'm going to read it because I want it to be in the record. Are you available on on April 29th to come together informally with a group of islanders who love the arts? Let's get to know each other and come up with ideas to create a vision for our island inspired by the arts. We are hoping this conversation will begin to build a collective path for supporting and promoting vibrant arts community here on the island. We look forward to meeting you and sharing our thoughts together. So that's April 29th at 5:30 to 7 at the Rock. I said it's in the Boyd Building, 7605 Southeast 27th Street. So I'm reading this not just for the people here tonight, but maybe others might catch on to this. So thank you for the opportunity, Julie, for sending this out, and I will do my best to be there.
Yeah, actually, we might change the time a little bit on that because 5:30 is the MyVol reception for the art that's showing there. But yeah, just try to go to that and then come by around 6 and just to, I have these community engagement with the community, and I thought it would be nice to sometimes have a bit more focus about the arts. And I know Anne, of course, through MyVol. So just thought, it would be a nice way to just bring people together who love the arts. So yeah.
Thank you.
And welcome Ryan and, Sarah and Katie to join too. I know you all love the arts too.
And staff, we are going to try to attend, at least one of us.
Oh, great.
I do want to mention for Arts Council members, if you are planning to attend, let us know.
Right.
In case we run into a situation where we have a quorum, I do want to go by the book, and I can notice that and take care of that on my end. So just please reach out to Raven and Katie, and we'll make sure we're taken care of there.
Thank you very much for reading that email. And I think many people are looking forward to all the opportunities that we have on this island to engage with the arts, and to Julie, especially for organizing this with others. So are there any other comments? So there being no other business to come before the Arts Council, the time is now 7:48 and the meeting is adjourned. Councilors, please stay seated until city staff has ended the Zoom broadcast. Thank you.